Good morning and welcome to the County of Berrien. It's a pleasure to have you all here this morning. I am filling in for our chair until he arrives. He's running a few minutes behind. As a reminder, please turn off or silence all electronic devices. Any materials you wish to have distributed to the board, you can do so by giving that to our Sergeant of Arms, which is Commissioner Jim Kern. And if you wish to address the board, please do so by going to the podium, stating your name, your jurisdiction, and you have 2 minutes to express whatever you would like to the board. With that being said, roll call.
Bell. Curran.
Here.
Harrison.
Here.
Hinkleman.
Here.
Majerick.
Here.
Ott.
Here.
Pitchford.
Here.
Ballraff.
Here.
Werfel. Here. Yarborough.
Present.
Elliott. Freeling.
Present.
Madam Chair, you have 10 present and 2 absent.
We have a quorum. A little bit of housekeeping. First, I want to say I love that we have a young guest in the audience learning about governmental process. It seems like he's really intrigued. Love it. This is Alex's son. And then one more bit of information. A little birdie told me that there may or may not have been a birthday that occurred yesterday for one of our colleagues, Bob Harrison. And so if you'd all indulge me, let's sing happy birthday to him, shall we? Yes. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bob. Happy birthday to you.
May I sing?
Oh, I love the harmony.
Yeah, good.
I want to sing to you Stevie Wonder.
Oh.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Great. Thank you very much. And now-
Last time I let you teach.
Oh. I was just gonna say, now that I thoroughly embarrassed you. But in all sincerity, I hope it was a wonderful birthday.
So I started out my birthday day taking cans of.
I got you. There you go.
I
There's a
started
story, you
out
got a mic.
my fabulous birthday taking cans and bottles back to Myers at 7:20 in the morning.
You were worried about the environment. I
And
appreciate that,
that's
Bob.
the high point of my day.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I would like to follow up with that. I texted Bob happy birthday, and then he responded back with a picture at Myers. Taking that photo.
I mean, seems like the appropriate thing to do on a birthday, right? With that, we'll jump back into the agenda. I'm assuming everyone had received the minutes from August 17th. If so, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion. We approve the minutes of August 17th.
Motion from Commissioner Pitchford, supported by Commissioner Ott. Any discussion on them? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, minutes are approved. And now we move into our scheduled presentations. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yep.
Brian.
Members of the board, the first item that we're going to talk to you all about
I
is-
missed one on the
Yep,
agenda.
not a problem.
The first item we're going to talk about is requisition approval.
Yes.
I jumped to the gun. Sorry, Warren. I'm a little out of practice and still have fair fog going on, so.
He's a lot more important than I am, so, you know.
And that, I'm so sorry about that.
It's okay. Does anybody have any questions about the requisitions, which, by the way, I realize that's really small print. I'm gonna work on that going forward. Anybody have any questions? Nope. All right, thank you.
All right, that will be going around. And now,
So your staff is starting to work on their budget documents. That's going to be a weeks-long process. One of the items that we hope to have baked into this year's budget is a proposal that'll come out of equalization. And so the proposal is oblique imaging. And Warren's going to take a few minutes and talk to you all about this. It's one of these that It is a piece of software that, once you're familiar with it, I think you'll see that it has value for Warren's operations for county equalization. But more to the point, it has great value for all of the local units, specifically to their assessing departments. No action is going to be requested today. I just wanted to take a few minutes and have Warren explain what he's hoping to bring forward that would benefit both the county as well as the local units of government. With that said, I'm going to slide to the back so I can actually see the presentation. Warren?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for having me. This is something I've been interested in for a while, and so it's nice to have an opportunity to at least talk about it. I'm going to dive right in here. All right, so what is oblique imagery? On the left, we're looking at what the cool kids call an ortho image. And it's what we're used to seeing. It's what you see on Google Earth, Google Maps. It's what we have on our Beacon website. It's technology that has been around for a long time now. It's widely used everywhere. What I'm talking about, though, is oblique imagery, which is, rather than a top-down perspective, it's shot from a 45-degree angle. Both are achieved through a flight. This isn't satellite imagery. This is a plane that flies with a camera. And the thing that makes oblique unique is this angled perspective. I don't know where the word comes from. Dan was filling me in this morning. He's an expert on the terms if you have any questions. But so this is just an example of a structure. With oblique imagery, you can view it from multiple points of view. So you can see this is rotated around 4 different perspectives. So that's what it is at a high level. I want to take a minute here to actually demo what the product would look like. Bear with us as I switch over, and that's helping me. She's great.
Where's that?
It's a website.
Right, but, oh,
I got it. I
sorry,
can take, is it sure?
sorry, there you go,
Okay.
just go ahead.
Here we go. So what we have currently is this. It's not up there. Hang on. Zoom. Share screen. All right. Okay, this is what's on our website right now. This is an ortho image, and you can see as we zoom in, other layers start to populate. You get roads. There's a ton of GIS layers over on the left here that can be looked at, but then you can see property lines. Again, this is old technology. So this is Monroe County. I don't know where in Monroe County. This is just a sample that they provided me with so I could demonstrate what this actually looks like. So right here, we're looking at that top down, that ortho perspective. But the closer in we get, is where the magic happens. And you start to see this 45-degree angle. And you can rotate your view to look around the structure at various angles. You can search via property address or parcel number. And part of why this is unique compared to, say, Google Earth is we can toggle on all of our GIS layers, in particular property boundaries here. You won't see that on Google, but that's a pretty big deal because you need to know what property a building is sitting on. So this ties in with all of our GIS layers, and I demonstrated that you can rotate, and I'm going to explain why that's valuable. But there's also something really cool that this can do, is it can measure height. So if I wanted to know how tall this building was, potentially, hypothetically, I do one of these, and it's going to tell me it's about 16 feet, 15.8 feet. That is super accurate as well. I've used this product before. I've done tests of accuracy where I physically go out take a measurement and then compare it to what you can measure with the application, and it does a really good job. This is held up in numerous court cases at this point. You can also measure horizontally, which is not new. You can do that on our current application, but that height measuring is really pretty neat. So I'm going to hop back over to my presentation now and explain why this is such a big deal, why it's so useful. Wait, bear with us here. We'll get there. Do we need to stop sharing?
Well, that's actually in your thing though.
Oh. So, okay, so we need to
Now we go
reshare
back here.
with
Yeah,
that.
now that up there, right? Except that I went too soon.
Did you hear the one about the, I don't have anything. I did not. Thank you. You just saved me. You bailed me out. All right, so why is this useful? I did the product demo. As Brian kind of mentioned, this is not just useful to equalization. It can be used by numerous county departments, potentially benefiting community development. I didn't mention health department on here, but that's potentially one as well. Big ones are dispatch, public safety, some hazard mitigation. I can't speak too much about how it's useful to these other departments. I'm mostly going to be talking about equalization and assessing, but I do want to kind of go down the list. So say for dispatch, something that's really cool about this product is it really utilizes third-party integration to its fullest potential. It can integrate with the software that dispatch currently uses. So I don't exactly know what that looks like, but I know that that's something that's been worked out. So I imagine you've got a building on fire. Dispatch can pull this up, look at the building and say, there's an exit, this, part of the building and what have you. So I know it's definitely useful for them. Caitlin is aware of this. She's interested. Why it's good for, say, emergency management, in particular for Berrien, this has a lot of shoreline advantages. You can see, if you look from your top-down point of view, and you can see, okay, this house looks like it's so close to the shore, but with that oblique perspective, you can measure the distance from the house to the edge and then see, actually, no, this is a cliff. There's a 50-foot drop here, and how close that erosion is affecting the property. Something that's also really cool is the disaster response that comes with this. As long as we have a contract, anytime if we have, like, say, a tornado comes through, there's any kind of disaster, they will come out and fly that site to get us current fresh images, no additional cost. So pretty slick for that. And then public works, this is really helpful, in particular with the local units. What I'm proposing is 2 flights over 6 years, once every 3 years. But I just found out yesterday that Traverse City, where I happened to be from, started off doing a couple flights a year. They've increased their frequency now, or excuse me, flights every three or so years. They've increased their frequency to now they're flying every year, multiple times. And apparently that has something to do with their utilities. It's useful for that point of view as well. So again, I can't speak to exactly how it's useful for these other departments, but I know it is. But to tackle what I'm most interested in, we're going to be looking at equalization and assessing. Assessors gotta assess. Big surprise, right? What that means is they're supposed to visit 20% of their properties in their township or city every year, conduct a physical inspection. And equalization, while we are not assessors, we do have to conduct appraisals as well. So what that means is going out to properties, knocking on doors, talking to the property owner, physically going around and measuring all of their buildings and taking pictures. So even though equalization isn't doing assessing, we still have to do appraisals. We do approximately 1,200 a year, give or take. So our people are going out, plus your local assessors are going out. And having this tool to be able to get information from your desk, from going to a website, eliminates some of the need to have those interactions and sometimes uncomfortable interactions and intrude on, individuals' properties. So from that point of view, I would consider this being less intrusive, or at least having less of a need to go on to each site. The other thing I want to talk about is fairness and accuracy. This tool would provide info about properties that can't be physically accessed, and it helps reconcile and correct existing records, and it reveals property improvements that are not being assessed. There's a spiel that I like to say that I apologize if you've already heard me say it a dozen times, and it goes like this. Nobody agrees on taxes, but everybody agrees that if we are going to have a system of taxation, that needs to be fair and equitable. And the only way to accomplish that is to have accuracy. That means that the property record card that goes on the assessment roll matches the reality of what's physically on the property. So again, having this tool in an assessor's toolbox, that's just going to strengthen the accuracy of the roll. Everyone gets assessed on whatever property they own. If you have to pay taxes on what you have on your site, I have to pay taxes on what I own on my site. So does everyone else. That's the idea. And this would not conceivably replace fieldwork outright, but again, it's just a powerful tool that helps the appraisal process. And specifically for equalization and assessing, I mentioned third-party integration. This tool interfaces directly with our BSNA assessing application, which is used statewide. It's the only assessing software that's actually meets all of the criteria that are necessary. So that's pretty unique. That's pretty awesome. All right. So how would one achieve getting this oblique imagery? It's available through the state of Michigan's MySail program. That's the Michigan Statewide Authoritative Imagery and LiDAR. Bunch of fun terms there. Basically what the state did is they said, we're gonna do a bidding process, go out, look at all of these vendors, establish a contract, and that gives counties the option to essentially piggyback off of that contract without having to go through the bidding process ourselves. So contract is already in place. We could sign on and benefit from all of that negotiating that already occurred. What I'm potentially looking at here is a 6-year contract, 2 flights, say next year and in 2027. The data again would be joined against all of our existing parcel layers, so it's not. You can see the property boundaries, you can see roads, maybe addresses. I don't know what all layers we have, but would follow the same projection, so that's a pretty big deal. And we would own the data if we go with this. Bear with me here. Oh yeah, okay, so the other thing I want to talk about is local cost sharing. We've talked about that this is really beneficial for the local units. There's an argument that's even potentially more beneficial for the local units than for the county. So conceivably, if Berrien were to acquire this product, we could open it up and say, Township A, City B, if you'd like to utilize this product as well, they could buy in and essentially split the cost with the county on whatever that unit is. That percentage could be determined at a later time, but what that ends up doing is it makes this super affordable for the local units. I don't have hard numbers today, but we're looking at a couple $1,000 a year, depending on the municipality. So not bad at all. But above and beyond local unit cost sharing, I've started conversations with our neighboring counties and included the vendor on those conversations. It's a lot cheaper if we can synchronize flights. So for each county around us that participates, they'll give us a bigger discount, which is the whole reason why it's better for the county to acquire this rather than for the local units to go out and get it on their own. Because there's already a plane in the air, they can fly the whole county much cheaper and then give the option to local units to potentially buy in. So I don't exactly have pricing. I'm waiting on an updated proposal, but based on last year's numbers, I came up with some low and high. This low presumes that the local units would buy in and that we get some discounts from the multi-county collaboration. So something like 20,000 a year over 6 years. And then on the high end, this would be if local units didn't participate, which I would be shocked. It would be more like 51,000 a year. Again, hard numbers are forthcoming. And that was it for my slides. I do want to just mention that I see this as the next technological step. This oblique imagery has actually been around for a good while now. I think it's an inevitability, just like cell phones and computers. Like we're living in more and more of a digital age. I think the only question is when are we going to get it? So I appreciate you allowing me a few minutes to talk about it. And I did want to emphasize too that because of the MySail program, because of this multi-county collaboration, this is the best opportunity that we've had so far. So.
Thank you very much. Questions for Warren? Yes, ma'am.
You plan on bringing this onto a CEO meeting, then we can find out what the value might be for the cities and towns?
Good suggestion. That's a really good suggestion. So the Chamber of Commerce hosts usually once a month, luncheons, and they have the majority of the township supervisors there.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I'll work.
It needs to be a soft.
I like that a lot. I've done a soft poll with at least the assessors, and I've gotten really overwhelmingly high interest and feedback. But as far as putting it in front of their local boards, I mean, that could be a whole nother story. So.
Surrounding counties are.
Cass has been in the conversation, Van Buren, St. Joseph, and I think we're reaching out to Calhoun and possibly Branch. So Van Buren actually already has it. We would just be syncing up our flight schedule to reduce costs.
Mr. Chair, I don't want to rush this, but we still have the first.
Understood, but the lady has a question.
What we do with the other company, there is another company that we use. Will it continue to be doing or something different? I just saw.
Mike, you need a mic.
We'll get Lex on that one.
So currently, we had a flyover with MySail this year, but it's from the zenith position, straight up and down. It does not have the tools and everything that Warren and the oblique photography is taking place. But the MySail, which is the state group that we'd be joining, or we've already joined, is the one that did the flyover. So the flyover was done with the state of Michigan. This is also part of the state of Michigan. This allows us a lot more tools. One thing I would like to say is this has been on my list for literally 10 years. And so what has once become a dream, this is my dream, is now becoming a industry standard. So there are many counties around us that is already using this tool and these oblique aerials, and there's different departments within the county that can also utilize these tools, as Warren's already told you.
Okay, thanks, everyone. We'll segue to the clerk now.
So Mac, if you just give us 1 second, we'll pull up Sharon's presentation, and then Sharon and her team are going to talk to you all about early voting, and this is the new reality for the state of Michigan. And there we go.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, sorry. Good morning. I didn't expect that I was going to speak to you so soon. I thought it might be later in September, but on Friday, we received an opportunity at 126 that there is an early voting grant application. And so I want to introduce this to you. There will be a resolution in the Finance Committee today. It's on added resolutions also. Who's switching? Are you switching? Okay. Proposal 2 was passed on November 8th. This gives another option for voters. You still have same-day voting. You still can, no reason absentee, but also it provides an opportunity to the voters of Michigan to vote 29 days early. The proposal which I will be presenting to the counties will only be for 9 days of early voting. By proposal 2, it created certain mandates, and one of them is the drop box. We were introduced to the drop box when we had the pandemic with COVID. Now it's mandatory. Also, it shows that when a local clerk is doing AVs, the voters, when they got their AV, they had to put their own postage stamps. It is now prepaid, reimbursed to the local clerks. We have seen those changes already recently. Proposal 2 for the early voting is only required for state and federal elections. You don't have to do them with local. And the presentation which I have prepared for the local clerks has only been for state and federal. I am not going for schools or local municipality millages because there's a lot of work required. Now, I know you have the presentation, so I'm not going to go through everything and define it. So, because I want to make sure you can get to committees on time. It does now allow for the municipalities and the county to get donations funds for elections. And what we're usually talking about is non-for-profits. It's like the Gateway Foundation. It is like the tribal funds. There's certain other assets that we can also pay for. Go to the next slide. There's 3 options for early voting. And what has happened with this grant, which I'm presenting, is that we have to have it in by September 8th. And it's the first grant application. It is not the last. But in order to get the equipment that we need for the local clerks or for 3 different plans, a local municipality can do an individual early voting. A local municipality can partner with other municipalities, or they can join with a county-wide. Each of these early voting has to have an election coordinator to run it. So with this monies, which you're going to hear about, is that if we don't apply for this grant now, we may not have the money for the primary, which should be held in February. Going to the next one. Okay, this states the law. You must have it for at least 9 days. In the county agreement, we're looking at the 9 days. It begins in January 1st for the 9 days. We will begin on is it a Friday? Friday, and we would end on a Sunday.
It begins on the Saturday before the statewide election.
Right. This is Catherine, who is my deputy elections clerk, and I forgot to introduce, and my election administrator, Victoria Graham. They have been working with me diligently, and we have been sleeping, eating 24 hours a day on elections. One thing I'll note, I just came back from a conference, what started on Sunday. This has been changing daily. So I know I'm talking real fast, and I know I have limited time, so I've spelt this all out. Go to the next slide. The county agreement. What this means is when they created the law, and it's very interesting, the county agreements are approved by your Berrien County Elections Commission, not by the Board of Commissioners. But on a local jurisdiction, the local municipalities must approve it. How they set up the law is that anything where it's required by monies or budgeting purposes is done by the Board of Commissioners. Now, on the grant, what is very interesting, it's signed by the local clerk. But I like to follow the county policy. I want to be a good team member to the Board of Commissioners, and I want you to be familiar so that when your constituents ask, I want you to be part of this so that you're aware. I know a lot of county clerks are going to bypass their Board of Commissioners if they can get all this money. But I believe we need to be working on this in a collaborative way because a lot of our local clerks, they have full-time jobs. They have other responsibilities, just like myself. And it's going to be very hard to create early voting. So what we're looking at when we're talking about a county agreement, I am looking at 2 sites, one in the north and one in the south. I'm looking at, we have, as I stated, we have 31 jurisdictions and 59 precincts. So right now I'm looking at creating the election coordinator. We are looking at the space and location that the site has adequate parking and in and out entrance in that site, internet. We want to make sure that the site has security for all voters. When you have a state and federal, I am with a special phone with Homeland Security. Rocky Adams has worked with my office in creating a plan for security. So when you're looking at a county agreement, you're looking at 2 site locations. And you're also looking at how to collaborate. Keep on going, we'll get to the other. These are the dates we're looking at. The presidential primary election is right now tentatively set for February 27th. It does not have an immediate effect, so February 27th is not locked in. Otherwise, it would be March 12th. So what we would have to provide is early voting from February 17th to the 25th and have 8 hours per day. Basically, the poll workers will probably be anywhere from 10 to 12 days for setup and getting everything ready. The primary, so this date for February 27th could change. And there's 3 ways to get an immediate effect. 1, the legislators could recess now very shortly, but they can still host special meetings. The second, they could negotiate agreement to change that date. In changing, I would say the negotiations, which I heard at the conference, is changing the primary date. As you can see, August 6th is the primary date. It really needs to be a May or June. We will have overlapping procedures and testing, which is involved in the November election. So you may see that change. Right now, I do not want to see that change for next year because that would change everybody's filing deadline. So the third option on the presidential primary date changing would be that they change the rules in the Senate. So right now, the House, how they decide on immediate effect, they all yell, yay or nay. You really don't count the votes. In the Senate right now, you press a button, red or green. So a yay and nay, you usually can't count it. You say it's passed. So it'll be interesting to see if this changes. It'll be interesting to watch if the legislators recess early. And that probably would be the easiest way of solving this situation. And then you have the general election on November 5th, and you can see how we were looking at presenting the days and the hours. Next slide. This is the email we received on Friday, very short window of opportunity. This was an unfunded mandate by the voters approved. The state of Michigan has allocated $30 million to early voting, and that's really a drop in the bucket to 83 counties. Go to the next slide. These are some of the items that we will be implementing into the grant that we have to pay for. Go to the next slide. So as we've been sitting at the conference, we're trying to find out what do we need, how many tabulators do we need, and everything. So I'm looking at a grant, and this is estimate, and I'll tell you by hour, everything keeps on changing in the needs. We're looking at about 240,000 estimatedly. We are looking at 52 election workers spread between 2 sites. So I'm looking at 44 poll workers, and that would be 22 at each election site. There would be 8 on the receiving board, and so there'd be 4 at each site, 1 in South County, 1 in North County. The state of Michigan in the grant will only reimburse up to $15 an hour. We will have an election supervisor at each site, which I will be speaking to my local clerks, and how we would provide that would be having them being at that station. The election coordinator would be working out if we have any issues going between the 2 site locations, while my election administrator will be working on the November election, making sure that everything in the ballot and every day-to-day items we have. So these are the costs which I am looking at. The one thing what we have learned, a lot of the items we can use, maybe if you look at it, poll books. What is interesting on the poll books, right now they're working on the software. There are certain companies who already have software programs. I'm not sure what the state will do. So when you see 12 and you see 12 on that, it'll be 6 for one site, 6 for the other side. The question is how we do the tabulators. It says that 10 precincts, and you got to remember, I've got 59 precincts. I can put 10 precincts on a tabulator. If we have a recount, it will be a nightmare. So I would prefer to put less precincts on that. They state in other states where I've listened to presentations, 40% of your voters are early voting. Now you got to remember that you still have the option of voting the same day. You also have the option of no reason absentee. What I see with the early voting is probably a few things. One, as people have their feelings of the previous elections, they don't trust sometimes the clerks or who's tabulating their AV ballot. So let's say you ask for an AV ballot, you can take your AV ballot into the early voting center, and it can be switched to an early voting ballot, and it will be tabulated, and the voter will feel confident that their vote has been cast. The other item I see, I'm going to use my daughter-in-law. She has ladies' night out. They do wine tasting and that. Well, before they go out, I can see the group of ladies are all going to go vote first, and then they're going to go and vote. Then they're going to go and have some wine and cheer on whoever they are voting for. Or you've got the golfers who are out on the golf course and said, did you vote today? And they're going to come off the golf course and they're going to go to one of these early voting centers. It's kind of a little bit similar to like the Secretary of State's office. They have 2 sites in Berrien County, and I'm kind of modeling it a little bit like that. You're not probably going to see your seniors change. You're not going to see certain people who like the traditional. I haven't picked which way I want to vote yet. I think it'll be, what we're going to see is that people are going to be curious. So that will be, the curiosity will come probably the first year. They want to trust it. We want to make sure that it's a secure, safe, the integrity within the election process is all intact. So also we did not add, and it depends on where the site is, I have to have a secure room to lock all the equipment up, all the data up, according to Homeland Security. I have those requirements. It's not something that we can negotiate. It's already set in stone. Go to the next slide. So at this time, we just got done with a conference. My staff joined me on Tuesday. So we keep on having changing information. I thought at one time I was going to give you a presentation, but it would have changed probably after this week. We have been started already meeting with the South County clerks, and it looks like most of them are all buying into this countywide agreement. We are also working with the local clerks to see, maybe they have extra voting booths, anything that we can't make up within that grant, maybe they have. What also will show when we put the grant together, we will put together a budget. If we get the grant, what I'm looking at proposing, if you're doing it on your own, you're gonna have to have you'll have to buy definitely new tabulators. You'll have to have additional ballot containers to secure it. A lot of the other equipment cannot be used for other sources. So if you're doing it on the own, you're gonna have to buy it all by yourself. If you're doing it in a group, you divide the costs, and my proposal to the local clerks is by how many precincts. Some of them are going to just take the number 10 and just divide it. But you could have a Lincoln Township, and then you could have a Waterville City who has 1 and the other one has 6. So I believe it needs to be broke out. So really the cost to the county should be made up by the budget with a reimbursement where we don't receive the grant monies. Go to the next slide. What will happen is, and it's interesting in this grant, and we did not know that until on Tuesday of this week. This is not only for the county agreement. This grant is also for any local agreement. So at this time, we know that Benton Township has passed an agreement to go solo. So if they want to put in a tabulator, we would put this into the grant, itemize that grant with their desires. If a joint effort with, I'm just giving an example, Waterville in the Cloma area, we would have to put their agreement and their grant costs. What you saw in the proposal was a countywide. So this number on this grant is going to change. This is not a choice of myself. And most of the clerks in the state of Michigan would prefer that each local municipality, if they do not want to go into countywide, would have to submit their own grant. Was that real confusing? Okay. So let's move on down. So what is, the grant was announced on the 18th. I have to submit it in by the 8th. Right now, we're trying to get local municipalities to agree which way they're going. One thing with the grant agreement. So I'm going to use Benton Township, and they are going to come to the county-wide presentation with it we have next week. Once they sign it, they've got 30 days to get out of that agreement. Even if they were working with the county and say, I don't want to work with the county, they got 30 days, but they can't do it 150 days before a state and federal election. So this is that information. I'm trying to move you along. Where are we at? This goes and shows you all the dates which we have to confirm. I do have later dates if I don't go for the grant money. There are no matching funds, what we have to add to it. It's what we can receive. I believe we're capable of getting 50% of that grant. And I'm hoping that my local municipalities have extra voting booths. The things which have been now inflating by looking at all the costs is the election equipment is rising in price. Let's go to the next one so I can go. This is the resolution which is being proposed on added resolution today. I would greatly appreciate it because you have a 5th Thursday next week so that I can get the grant in. This doesn't mean that we're going to get anything. It's just a proposal. I will come back to you once I get the money and the state gives me the money, and it will show how it needs to be dispersed. I did have this resolution reviewed by our corporate counsel, Brian, Annette, and I've been very grateful because this has been a very short notice for everybody. I don't mean to block you. This is the 2 areas which I'm proposing. The South County one is if we acquire the AP building, I think that would be a great site. My staff and I walked into it. If some of the companies and business, the other departments who are going in there would make a perfect site, enough parking there, the security is strong enough for what I need. Great internet. It works fabulously. What I'm proposing in the North County is on Napier. And I'm working with 3 locations. And I'm looking at, I already have had conversations, and our administrator has been gracious to set it up. I've talked to Lake Michigan College, making that a site. I am also looked at where we had our night meeting at the health department. I have also looked at like the health department, you know, just to find something what was more centrally located. So those are the sites what are tentative being looked at. Now, the sites and everything like that is approved by the election commission, which includes myself, the treasurer, and Judge Mayfield. Next one. So alternative fundings, which I sat briefly, there are other foundations within Berrien County. We can receive these monies to make up that pool of money to make this happen. Unfortunately, this is on a very fast pace. And unfortunately, we got the legislation to be able to know what we need to provide by law. Next slide. Right now, if we didn't go for the grant, the timeline would have changed, and I would have notified all the clerks on the 25th. But unfortunately, we know this is going to cost money, and I'm hoping that you will agree with me and adopt a resolution. In the future, I don't know if we need 2 sites. Maybe we only need 1 site. One thing I do want to note, I am working with Lake Michigan College in collaboration with them to assist in getting the poll workers and adopting it and integrating it within a class for political science. The one thing what has to happen is I have to be present because I'm the only one who can certify the training. With this early voting, it also changes, and why the AEP site is such a great site for us. There are a lot of election workers for this next year. There is a lot of training. If we have recounts, the facility is large enough to spread out. There's enough rooms that I can secure everything according to Homeland Security needs. And so there's the list of your dates. So I did that really fast, but you've got the slide, and I was mumble jumble, and you've got the resolution before you. I will come in a little later into the finance committee if you have any questions. I will be honest, I don't know what everybody's going to do. We have already received probably 5 local clerks who have made commitments, only 1 doing solo. Out of the, how many do I have? My jurisdictions, 30. Out of my 31 jurisdictions, I believe there could be 2 who go solo, but I totally believe we may have all 30. I think we have a great example. I think working with Lake Michigan College in collaboration on poll workers, I think we have a good role model for the state of Michigan. And I've received a lot of positive feedback from the Bureau of Elections and what I'm proposing. The one thing what I like about the 2 locations with the 31 bypass, as my election coordinator, which you will see later on probably with the job description, it'll be easy to go down that 31 bypass and work the 2 site locations. So I hope you like what I've presented to you today. Thank you for your time in this short notice.
Thank you. If there are no questions for the clerk, we'll go to public comments, other business, and then get on to committees. Anybody have any public comment? Any other business? All right, we're adjourned. We're back here at 10:30.